Just explaining here that you have those are studies on specific pieces of the body, but I'm not actually using them in a way that's corresponding to the actual form that's being depicted frame by frame. It's more of the reasoning behind the treatment of these tissues that is almost imposed on other parts of the image in an unnatural way. But what this creates is it creates this instructional tone to things that shouldn't be as important. So it's an interesting way of giving attention and more of an objective, flatter focus on different things on the same plane for a specific frame.
So give me a specific instance in which you're ignoring some aspects of the illustration or the body thing and another.
So in a way the objective was to do the opposite of select. I'm not actually selecting a specific element to focus on. I am trying to give a flatter focus on many elements at the same time. And you're lost in hyper detail instead of being instructed to focus on a specific thing by isolating the rest. So in a way, it's done in a very specific way that doesn't overwhelm the viewer. They still have a chance to they have an incentive to look at specifics, but at the same time the world is bigger than they are, so there's still things to look at around if necessary for the specific viewer.
So if I understand you correctly, it's specific enough to give detail to get the viewer's eye moving around, but the viewer is supposed to know that that's not the focus.
Yeah. Right? It's a bit like every scene is a scheme of human interaction. It has this.
So there's more. If I understand correctly, there's you're providing more information than you know is needed because you want to generate an interest in the viewer to understand that there is more information out there than they could actually look at.
I guess, but it's everything's part of the same system.
Right.
It's just that you're witnessing a system.
Okay.
It's not extra. It's not like it's not as if because that wouldn't make a lot of sense. Like if you're trying to say a specific thing, just putting extra stuff in there it could work. But I mean, with moderation, So I wouldn't say that the idea was just to blast the viewer with detail. It's not as much this as it's more the idea of walking them into a system that is independent of them, and they're just trespassing. They're just witnessing something that kind of exists in itself.
Right.
And I think it comes from, we spoke about that last time, but I think it comes from the GIF, the advent of the GIF culture, where people look at looping systems of images and infinity, because it's almost like a. I was talking about that the other day to a friend. It's like you're having an approach to an event that is much more cubist than linear, because you want to look at it again and again and again and appreciate it from different ways. So you're having many angles on the same motion. So I think that's more or less the same look, and this here is like unwrapping a skin on all its angles in the same time and putting on the character,
Right.
so that you have all the information there is.
So in other words, it's trying to simultaneously the different layers. So if I'm looking at this particular, I remember having the transparencies in books, right? Where, especially on the human body, it would be on different transparencies, and that's what you're trying to do, but simultaneously.
Yeah, and
Right.
it's all very opaque at
Right.
the same time. That is where the surrealism is, because you're trying to you're providing an artificial setting for enhanced reality, but at the same time everything is extremely opaque and coexisting as if packaged in a sardine can.
Right.
That is where the surrealism is.
Right.
It's in that hyperphysicality of something that is either theoretical or even worse, like emotional, because it is emotional interactions between the two characters. So I think this is where it comes from. That's where the tension is, and the surrealism comes from that hyperphysicality of things like a transparent
Right.
overview of all angles of the same situation. And I mean, that's why I was bringing this up, because it's like this is the blueprint of I guess of
The house.
the house, yeah. But what happens if you take this approach and you try to explain their relationship with that same language? And that is why every scene is this layout that is extremely objective, to a point where it's kind of a bit. I think it's a bit bothersome also, the objectivity and everything.
But when you say that it's bothersome, that's an aesthetic for you.
It's an aesthetic, and I think I'm intrinsically bothered by it.
And that's a good thing.
I think so, because
Okay.
I'm not indifferent to it, and that's
Right.
already
Right.
a lot.
Right.
That's a lot to accomplish.